welcome to The Front Row. I'm your host, Elizabeth Allen here, and I'm putting you in the front row of your favorite musicals. So to start off today's episode, we're going down to Skid Row, setting of the horror comedy Little Shop of Horrors. What started as a 1960 low-budget dark comedy has become one of the most recognizable musicals today. You may know that from the 1986 movie musical by the same name, starring Rick Moranis. So it's a movie based on a musical based on a movie, fitting as there has been many productions of this show. Let's watch a recent performance of You Never Know from this show on The View to see just why it continues to be performed.
The cult classic musical that became a big screen blockbuster, Little Shop of Horrors, is back on stage in New York City, and everyone is getting a copy of the cast album courtesy of our friends at Ghostlight Records. So, without further ado, please welcome the cast of Little Shop of Horrors.
One day he pushed a broom, nothing in his nose but gloom and doom. Then he lit a fuse and gave it a broom. Stand aside and watch that mother blow. Explosion, bang, kaboom. Don't they gotta show you never know. Seymour was in a funk. He was number zero. Who's a drunk? He'd become a hero, just a punk. He was a forgotten so-and-so. Then one day,
Crash kerplunk.
no, they gotta show you never know. Now, Seymour, now we gonna sing for you. All the world used to screw him. Big wild power, now the interviews. And they came up to put his remarks on the air. Yeah, yeah. All the world used to hate him. And I thought in appreciate you. Oh, because of that strange little place over there. Observe him, he's a chap. Everything is happening in his lap.
I just cut my hand and in a snap, something out of Edgar Allan Poe has happened.
Snap to snap.
Don't it go to show you never know? One day you're slinging hash, feeling so rejected, lightning flash. You get resurrected, make a splash. Now you wake up in grumpy Seymour, and with the thunder crash.
Stand for food, sing to song, stand to soon. Dowie, dowie, holy cow. He ordered up a rainbow to go. Wow, wow, look out below. Don't we go to show you never know.
So that is a recent performance of the Off-Broadway show, which is currently playing, but it originally premiered off-Broadway in 1982. It later moved to the Orpheum Theater off-Broadway. It had a 5-year run there before eventually closing in 1987. There was a Broadway transfer proposed, but a certain writer felt that it was better performed in a small space. In 1983, the show opened on the West End and lasted there for 2 years. Although the Broadway transfer was turned down, it did eventually move to Broadway in October of 2003 in the currently named August Wilson Theater. But before this could happen, there was a trial error. And Alan Menken will tell you why he thinks it should be performed in a small setting and about the music of the show.
In creating a musical, you want to take the audience on an emotional journey that has a shape to it. Little Shop's world is a world that's established right from the very top, you know, with starting a horror movie and telling you about the end of the world going into Little Shop. Total contrast into bubblegum rock and roll, and the urchins come out. Little shop of horrors, pop, pop. Never stop the terror. Little shop of horrors, and no, oh no, oh no, oh no, gonna be fun. Then we have that moment, and you go downtown where the cabs don't stop, downtown where the food is slop. Now we're setting up all the characters. We're setting up the world of Skid Row. Poor. All my life I've always been poor. I keep asking God what I'm for, and he tells me, gee, I'm not sure. Sweep that floor, kiddo. We're just taking you through the whole picture of Seymour is a loser, but he wants something more with his life. Audrey wants something more with her life. I know Seymour's the greatest, but I'm dating a semi-sadist. So I got a black eye and my arm's in a cast. Very touching. You're sculpting an experience that has to move at a certain pace in a certain way and inexorably keep the audience riveted. And that means you're going, you know, from style to style, from tone to tone, from emotion to emotion, sort of, you know, apocalyptic Phil Spector songs for the Crystals and the Ronettes and the Chiffons. When I was younger, just a bad little kid, my mama noticed funny things I did. All of these choices for these styles, for these voices, for these characters are drawing on a world. And in the context of that world, we're telling the story. And the story is about what human excesses and human greed does to the world. Feed me, Seymour. Feed me all night long. That's right, boy. Ha! You can do it.
So that, of course, was the very talented Alan Menken. And like I said, the Broadway show opened in August of 2003 at the August Wilson Theater. But before this could happen, there did have to be a tryout, and this was in Florida during May of 2003. Critics agreed with Alan Menken that they felt like the new production was adapted for a larger audience that lost its intimacy. In June 2003, when new director Jerry Zaks replaced the previous director, he fired the entire cast except for Hunter Foster, who was playing Seymour, and decided to redirect the entire thing from scratch. So one of the coolest fun facts about this production to me, that the Jim Henson Company, the company that owns the Muppets and Sesame Street, was enlisted to help build the Audrey 2 puppets. So does that make Audrey 2 a Muppet? But the show opened on Broadway in October of 2003 and ran until August of 2004. In fact, the closing cast included Joey Fatone of NSYNC. Not much was different in this production, besides some slight music changes that made it better for a Broadway-sized theater. But it didn't end there, because also in August of 2004, the national tour began. Earlier I mentioned Alan Menken, who was the writer of this show. Howard Ashman. You may recognize the name. If you don't, you definitely recognize some of his work. He wrote the lyrics for songs from Beauty and the Beast and The Little Mermaid. So of course lyrics need some music to be set to, so he collaborated with Alan Menken from the video, who has written music for countless Disney movies. Together the two created the songs that set a 1960s feel for the show, including styles like rock and roll, doo-wop, and Motown. So Alan Menken really described his music so well in that video, and I absolutely love the music in this show. I think it's so cool. But something truly makes this show special besides the music is the Audrey 2 puppets. As the show progresses, the man-eating plant gets bigger and bigger. The actor playing Seymour operates the first 2 potted plants. Eventually it grows to have a person inside of it to move it, but it is still much bigger by the end, so it can swallow characters. In the original off-Broadway production, some of the plants and vines and leaves spill into the audience. If you don't know much about the show, the basic plot is that Seymour Krelborn is an orphan that lives on urban Skid Row. He works at Mr. Mushnick's flower shop with Audrey, who he has a crush on. One day he buys an old Venus flytrap-looking plant, and he names it Audrey 2. The plant doesn't seem to grow, and he doesn't know what to do. So Seymour pricks the thorn of a rose and sees that Audrey 2 has opened its mouth. So Seymour drops some blood into his mouth, and eventually it grows and grows. But the plant needs meat, and human meat, and blood is that. So the musical follows Seymour trying to feed this plant because it's promising him an amazing life while also dealing with his moral issues that come with it. But the music in the musical have 2 very different endings. In the movie, Seymour and human Audrey are able to defeat the carnivorous plant and escape to the perfect suburban home. But in the musical, Audrey 2 eats both Audrey and Seymour. Then it is revealed that a bunch of Audrey 2s have taken over. So for me, I like the musical ending more. I think it fits the theme. But I'll let you decide after watching that movie ending.
Oh, shit!
Although I do prefer the musical ending, I'm a big Rick Moranis fan, so I'm glad his Seymour didn't die. And this is definitely one of my favorite musicals. But before I send it to commercial break, one important reminder. Don't feed the plants!
Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like to have my seat?
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
back to the front row. Hide your money, because we're heading back in time to the 1930s when the notorious couple Bonnie and Clyde were robbing banks. Believe it or not, there was actually a musical based off these two, and it went to Broadway. So, let's get into it. Frank Wildhorn wrote the music and Don Black wrote the lyrics, and the book was written by Ivan Menchel. Wildhorn got the idea to create a song cycle that centers around Bonnie and Clyde, so he got in touch with Don Black. Together, they released a 13-track demo. The songs incorporated multiple music styles like country, blues, gospel, and typical musical theater. In February of 2009, there was an industry-only read-through. Laura Osnes played Bonnie and Stark Sands played Clyde. The show continued to evolve through various productions. It played in San Diego in 2009, moved to Florida in 2010, with Jeremy Jordan joining the cast. This production was a big deciding factor in if it would make it to Broadway. Well, sure enough, the show was successful in Florida and began previews on Broadway in November of 2011, and later officially opening in December of the same year. So due to the heavy and sometimes graphic subject matter of this show, I don't have any good clips to show. But the Broadway production did feature Laura Osnes and Jeremy Jordan reprised their titular roles. Unfortunately, within the same month the show opened, it also closed. Obviously, the show is based on a darker subject matter, but that hasn't been an issue before because there is shows like Sweeney Todd out there that are very dark. But what hurt the show, according to critics, was that it lacked the darkness it was based on. The show painted the two of them as kids in love, and that it was the focus, not what made them so infamous. One critic said that it was a modest, mildly tuneful musical biography and followed that up by saying Bonnie and Clyde manages to make that triple threat lure of sex, youth, and violence seem about as glamorous and a lot less dangerous than Black Friday at Walmart. However, Laura Osnes and Jeremy Jordan's performances were very well received. Both went on to have successful careers after its closing. But a few months later, the show was able to make a comeback. In January of 2022, over at the West End, a concert-style production of this show opened. Originally, Jordan and Osnes were set to reunite, but she was replaced by Frances May-Lee McCann. This production was filmed and is set to be released, but has not been announced when it will just yet. So even though the show might have been a flop on Broadway, it is being revived on the West End as a fully staged production of the show, and was announced. And it began previews on April 9th, 2022, starring Frances May-Lee McCann as Bonnie and Jordan Luke Gage as Clyde. So it looks like the musical is meeting a much better end than the source material did. As we know, Bonnie and Clyde didn't have a happy ending. So let's send it to another commercial break, and then we'll get back to one of the most popular musicals, I think, ever.
You! Oh! Your fault. You!
My fault?
Your fault.
Ugh.
Your fault.
You're right.
What?
It's my fault.
What do you mean your fault?
Just the two of us.
You're right, it's my fault.
We can make it if
Maybe both of us?
Maybe just you.
just the two of us. All God's children, we got to come together and share the good feeling. 'Cause nothing ever gonna make this world better if we don't start believing that love really, really, really is the answer. Everybody join hands 'cause it's time now. Spread the love all over the world. Spread it all over the world. If we just love each other and lift up one another, shine a light from every heart. Now. We got to spread the love all over the world. We've got to spread the love.
going even farther back in time to the early days of America. This musical needs no introduction because, of course, I'm talking about Hamilton. The historical musical has reimagined when Alexander Hamilton and the Founding Fathers were building a new nation. Book, music, and lyrics were written by none other than Lin-Manuel Miranda, who also contributed the music of Moana. The show was directed by Tom and Kyle and produced by Jeffrey Seller. Unlike traditional musicals or even the more pop-based ones, Hamilton includes rap music, something that has set it apart from other shows for the last couple of years. The musical all started with Lin-Manuel Miranda. He was inspired to write the musical after reading Alexander Hamilton's biography by Ron Chernow. Since its opening on Off-Broadway in February of 2015, it was met with great reviews. Lin-Manuel Miranda played the titular character in this sold-out production. The show kept those great reviews 6 months later when it opened at the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway. Hamilton was a box office success and still is today. Not only was it a box office success, but it was nominated for a record amount of 15 Tonys. The show took home 11 awards that night, including Best Musical. So how did this success really start? All the way back in 2009. 8 years before its off-Broadway premiere, Lin-Manuel Miranda was asked to perform songs from another show of his, In the Heights, at the White House. He ended up singing a song from the then called Hamilton Mixtape, which is what the show started as. Hamilton is actually pretty popular at the White House. So here's a clip of the cast performing at the White House in 2016. Oops, we're having a technical issue, but...
How does a bastard, orphan, son of a whore and a Scotsman, dropped in the middle of a forgotten spot in the Caribbean by providence, impoverished and squalor, grow up to be a hero and a scholar? The $10 founding father without a father got a lot farther by working a lot harder, by being a lot smarter, by being a self-starter. By 14 they placed him in charge of a trading charter.
And every day while slaves were being slaughtered and carted away across the waves, he struggled and kept his guard up. Inside he was longing for something to be a part of. The brother was ready to beg, steal, borrow, or barter.
Then a hurricane came and devastation reigned. Our man saw his future dripping down the drain. Put a pencil to his temple, connected it to his brain, and he wrote his first refrain, a testament to his pain. Well, the word got around, they said this kid is insane, man. Took up a collection just to send him to the mainland. Get your education, don't forget from whence you came, and the world's gonna know your name. What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton. My name is Alexander Hamilton. There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait, just you wait.
When he was 10, his father split, full of it, dead to prison. 2 years later, see Alex and his mother bedridden, half dead, sitting in their own sick, the scent thick.
Alex got better, but his mother went quick. Moving with a cousin, the cousin committed suicide, left him with nothing but ruined pride. Something new inside, a voice saying, Alex, you gotta fend for yourself. He started retreating and reading every treatise on the shelf.
There would have been nothing left to do for someone less astute. He would have been dead or destitute without a sense of restitution. Started working for his late mother's landlord, trading sugar cane and rum and all the things he can't afford, scamming for every book he can get his hands on, planning for the future. See him now as he stands on the bow of a ship, headed for a new land. In New York, you can be a new man.
New York, you can be
just you wait.
New York, you can
just
be a new
you
man.
wait.
In New York, you can be a new man. In New York,
just you wait.
Alexander Hamilton, Alexander Hamilton.
I'm waiting in the wings for you. Waiting in the wings for you. You never back down. You never learn to take your time. Oh, Alexander Hamilton.
Alexander Hamilton. ship is in the harbor now. See if you can spot him. Another immigrant coming up from the bottom. His enemies destroyed his rep. America forgot him.
We fought with him.
Me, I died for him. Me, I trusted him.
Me, I loved him.
And me, I'm the damn fool that shot him.
There's a million things I haven't done, but just you wait.
What's your name, man?
Alexander Hamilton.
So that was some of the original Broadway cast performing at the White House. And like I said, he started the performance at the White House with the Hamilton mixtape. And it kept that name through the 2013 workshops at the Vassar College and New York Stage and Film Powerhouse Theater. The workshop included all the first act and only 3 songs from the second act. Only 3 of the principal cast members part of this production went to the off-Broadway production, including Lin-Manuel Miranda, Christopher Jackson, and Daveed Diggs. Later, all the off-Broadway cast members went to Broadway except Brian Darcy James, who played King George III, as he was later replaced by Jonathan Groff on Broadway. So previews for the off-Broadway production began at the Public Theater in January of 2015 and officially opened in February. The run was extended 2 times, and producer Jeffrey Sedler wanted to move it to Broadway before the 2014-2015 season ended to capitalize on its popularity and have it qualify for that year's Tony Awards. But Miranda wanted more time to work on the show. The transfer from off-Broadway to Broadway resulted in many changes, like cut songs and changes to songs. So in August of 2015, after previews that began in July of the same year, Hamilton officially opened at the Richard Rodgers Theater on Broadway. Fun fact, this was also the home of Miranda's musical, In the Heights. The show is still running on Broadway today. But like other shows on Broadway at the time, the COVID-19 pandemic put the show's run on pause, and it opened back up in September of 2021. Over a year later than its March 12th closing in 2020. The show was so popular that it had its own production in Chicago from September of 2016 to January of 2020. It grossed $4 million, breaking records for theaters in Chicago. The first national tour of Hamilton began in March of 2017. And there is many tours of this show, and they all have different names, named after characters from the show. So these multiple productions, there was the Philip tour, the Angelica tour, and I'm sure there's going to be more. There was going to be an Aunt Peggy one, but COVID kind of had a thing with that. So this show is immensely popular. I don't think you could not get a musical theater person without them being like, oh yeah, Hamilton. But there's a lot of things that make this show special. The stage, the idea of casting people of color as traditionally white people has broken down a lot of boundaries, which is awesome. And obviously the show has played in many places, but if you can't come see it, well, then look no further to Disney Plus, as it has a professional recording of the original Broadway cast on there. So that's all for this more historical themed episode. I'm Elizabeth Allen, and this has been The Front Row.